keep wandering into this territory. But what's happened is there's been such a backlash that now they're trying to say we're neutral. But they're also trying to say we've always been neutral, which they haven't. So I've been talking to some of these CEOs and the CEO of Vimeo. I asked her, I said, why not be politically neutral on abortion? And she said, well, I was politically neutral. My announcement was just about, a health care benefit. We're just watching out for the, for the benefits of our employees, and we're going to reimburse. Well, okay, do you reimburse for adoption?
Yes.
Because if you reimburse for abortion, you don't reimburse for adoption, then you're making a...
今日はチケットもらうとこだから忘れずに。金髪のコーチでしょ、白馬の。今日のコーチは。
そうだと思う。
That pushback, but we're also, learning that a lot of this is the proxy advisory services that push the companies in a certain direction, and that's kind of where we're focusing now, because a lot of these companies, they just say, well, what does the proxy advisory service say? And these proxy advisory services have tended to be ideologically biased as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, Jerry, I always appreciate you updating us on your work there. It's exciting work. It's important. And as believers, we don't need to abdicate our responsibility to show up when given the opportunity. And one of those opportunities was when we're shareholders in companies to express our values and engage on these issues and not just accept the status quo. Jerry, let's turn to the economy. Boy, this market is just really, it seems to be quite strong. We're starting to hear folks talking about, well, maybe that recession's not going to happen after all. And, well, maybe we're winning the fight against inflation and we're just going to have that soft landing the Fed was talking about. What do you make of all of this, where we find ourselves today?
Well, maybe we're not going to have that recession after all. I mean, it was never a certainty. Markets were pricing in a recession. Markets have been a little more optimistic. Now, one thing to keep in mind is you can't just look at whether the stock market is going up or down. You have to also look at individual sectors of the stock market.
Yeah.
So if the market is up, but a lot of that up is, say, in defensive stocks, like consumer staples, and less so in cyclical, then that's a little bit less of a growth sign, and it might be more a sign that, the Fed is, throwing in the towel a little earlier. So, stocks and bonds can move in accordance to growth expectations, or they can move in accordance to expectations about what the Fed's going to do. And mostly this year, it's been kind of the consensus that the Fed's just going to do one more rate hike, and it's going to be a small one. Now, sometimes that, most this year that probability was dropping, then it went up a little bit, but pretty much, at the center, markets have believed one more hike, and it's only 25 basis points, like a quarter percentage point. Well, if that's the case, then that means that the Fed's not hiking that much, and that kind of helps markets, because when the Fed's not hiking, that means the Fed's not selling. And when the Fed sells, then everybody sells. So if you kind of dig in a little deeper and say, well, how are stocks doing compared to bonds, and how are cyclical stocks, which are growth sensitive, doing compared to, say, recession hedges, like defensive stocks, it's not so clear that the markets think that there's not going to be a recession. My view is probably my view has been probably a recession, official, like a negative number, or maybe a growth recession, meaning near zero. So I think that's really what markets are not debating. A real soft landing, in my opinion. I think they're debating an official negative sign recession, or something, in the low, you're close to zero. I don't really think markets are acting, when you really look closely, not just did the Dow go up, but did the Dow go up compared to the NASDAQ, and did the NASDAQ's more down compared to the Dow? Are the growth sensitive things going up more than the other things? I think you're still, in a slowdown situation, which probably explains why inflation is down a little bit. When the economy slows down, it doesn't really beat inflation over the long run, because inflation's really about monetary debasement, but people get a little frightened, and when they get a little frightened, they spend a little less, and then the stores have to kind of cut prices to get them back into the mall.
So your feeling is, in terms of inflation longer term, that we've kind of settled into a new norm in the kind of 3-4% range moving forward, or do you think we can get back to these numbers the Fed is looking for it too?
I don't think we can get back to the numbers that the Fed is looking for unless we trigger a clear recession, a genuine, reasonably deep recession. So I think they're going to muddle through like they've done. Look, markets expect one more hike, and inflation's still hovering around 4%. Historically, that's a high inflation rate. So I just don't think the Fed is willing to trigger a serious slowdown. I think they're willing to play chicken with a mild recession, which is indeed what they're doing. But again, the whole way of approaching this is wrong. You don't fix inflation by slowing down the economy. Actually, you fix inflation by speeding up the economy. Too much money chasing too few goods. Get rid of all that, get rid of too much money, but also solve the too few goods problem. Deregulate the economy and let it grow. Let the horses run.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Jerry, I always appreciate you, my friend. I wanted to ask you about the decision on the BRICS, Russia-China-led consortium settling on using gold as the basis for their new international currency system, separate from the dollar and the euro. We'll save that for next week and get your comments on that, all right?
Sounds good.
All right. That's Jerry Boyer, our good friend and resident economist. He's president of Boyer Research. Always appreciate his insights as he stops by each Friday with his analysis on the markets and the economy. God bless you, Jerry. Folks, that's going to do it for us. Clinton in Mississippi, I apologize we didn't get to you. I'd love to have you on. You're right out of high school, wanting to think about investing. Let's see if we can get you scheduled for the broadcast on Monday. Thanks for calling. Folks, grateful to have you along with us today. I'm thankful for my team today. Adam, Devin, and Jim. Couldn't do it without them. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG, Greenville, Dallas. Around us. That's why Christians need to stand strong on family values and morality. Hi, I'm Ray Rooney, editor of The Stand, a blog from the American Family Association. The Stand has timely, carefully written articles on relevant cultural issues that you can quickly forward to others. Visit afa.net/The Stand.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I must repeat. Reaction is pouring in after a Republican senator released an FBI document containing claims of an alleged foreign bribery scheme involving the Biden family. Meanwhile, the FBI is raising concerns that releasing the document could possibly risk the safety of a confidential source. GOP Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida shares his reaction.
So I think that the FBI has nothing to stand on as far as I'm concerned. This form should have been released.
Unto death by Vietnamese Christians and American missionaries. We're also proud and grateful for our prisoners of war who are coming back with a testimony as to their new faith in God. They're telling stories of how little things meant so much during those
out along the sort of southern reaches of Oceania, maybe.
In Sudan's capital, 18 of its crew were physically beaten and whipped in Khartoum. And legendary singer Tony Bennett has died, aged 96. We'll take a look back at his extraordinary career, which spanned over 8 decades. Welcome to our second hour of Connect the World. I'm Eleni Jokos in Abu Dhabi. Now, the heat has gotten so bad in Athens, Greece, that the modern city is closing an ancient site. The Acropolis and other tourist attractions will shut down during midday hours to protect tourists against the extreme temperatures. That is part of the heat wave stretching across southern Europe. And in this region, we've seen soaring temperatures as well. Baghdad was paralyzed by 50 degrees Celsius heat, and the heat index in Iran's Persian Gulf International Airport hit a feels-like temperature of 66 degrees Celsius in the southwest of the U.S. Another weekend of triple-digit temperatures, scorching heat across Phoenix, all the way to Death Valley, California. So tonight, we ask, how will humans survive extreme heat? Our next guest is worried. Heat expert Lenyo Nirveli says, quote, "It is a different kind of heat, longer, more frequent, and much hotter." She says our bodies are not made for this. We still don't know the physiology of what happens. And Eleni Lenyo-Nirveli joins us now live. She is a global heat chief to the UN Habitat and the Arched Rock Resilience Center. Its leaders study the impact of extreme heat on sites and spearhead projects to mitigate its effects. Lenyo, great to have you with us. Thank you so very much for joining us on this vital issue. I think everyone is really worried. I think first off, let's start off with what is a chief heat officer? What do you do? What is your mandate? And how can you help us as we hit record temperatures?
Eleni, thanks for having me. So chief heat officers, there's about 7 or 8 today around the world, and the mandate is basically to make sure that they protect the most vulnerable populations that live in cities around the world, and also that they prepare the cities for future heat and make sure that the city, the way it's designed and the way it builds itself, becomes cooler as we go forth and more ready to deal with the climate phenomena that we are expecting.
Yeah, I mean, many people are saying, is this the new normal? You're in Athens right now. We're seeing fires, record temperatures. We just spoke about the Acropolis. In fact, staff are walking off in protest of working under the scorching sun as well. In fact, it was wildfires in 2007 that prompted you to head into this vital sector. You're also a former heat officer in Athens. You've done incredible work there on the ground. I mean, is this going to be our new reality every year? Is that what we need to expect?
Well, no, it's not going to be every year, but it's going to be much more frequent. So what the scientist tells us is that things that used to come once every 100 years, or even in a more infrequent way, extreme weather phenomena, we're going to see much more frequently. And I think we've kind of started experiencing this already in the past few years. The last 7 years have been the hottest ever recorded, and it seems to be quickly accelerating. Right now, we have on the whole of the northern hemisphere heat domes sitting over the US, the Europe, the Middle East, and China. And if you see at the map if you see these maps, they're really red and black, the way they depict this extraordinary heat that we're experiencing throughout the northern hemisphere, and this is extremely unusual. We haven't been experiencing these types of phenomena, and it's rolling heat waves. They never stop. They're long, and they're with very, very high temperatures. So this is not going to happen every year, but definitely we're going to see it more often.
Yeah. Look, heat is the #1 killer globally when it comes to anything related to climate or disasters, which is pretty shocking. I think a lot of people don't know that. You've done some amazing work in Athens. It's created a bit of resilience in that city. Clearly not enough. What does it mean for spending for governments and municipalities? Because it's going to come down to getting everyone at the top on board to want to spend on this.
That's right. It's extremely important for decision makers and policy makers to take this seriously. Last year, 2022, in Europe, we lost 60,000 people. There's a recent report that came out about 10 days ago. We used to think it was 15 to 20,000, but the new report shows numbers that go up to 60,000 in 1 year due to heat. This is like such an important type of information. We've been talking about global warming for decades, but we haven't really been focusing on heat and the effects on heat on the human body and on all living organisms. So we have to make sure that we check out and create backups for our crucial resources in cities: water, food, energy, in order to prepare to be dealing with these things and to not lose people, it's possible not to lose our people.
Look, the U.S. climate envoy, John Kerry, visited Beijing. Obviously on the agenda was the issue of climate. I want you to take a listen to what he had to say.
The world really is looking to us for that leadership, particularly on climate issues. Climate is a global issue, not a bilateral issue. It's a threat to all humankind.
All right, so Lenyon, here's the thing. They agreed we have a global problem. I didn't hear much commitment. How important is it going to be for the US and China to come to the table to figure this out?
It's extremely important. It's extremely important. They are two of the biggest polluters, and really the best way for adaptation, the best way to protect the people of our planet and the biodiversity that we're losing because of climate change is mitigation. They have to take immediate measures for phasing out fossil fuels, for stopping deforestation, and for reforming our agriculture and animal husbandry in ways that are sustainable. This is and I'm really hoping, Eleni, that now that we're seeing this extraordinary heat, and heat is experienced especially in these countries that are the polluter countries, that maybe COP28, or maybe there will be really much more serious measures and much more serious funding that is given to adaptation, to protect more people, but mostly decisions to stop destroying our Earth.
You've said there are about 8 heat officers right now. Do you think that we're going to see this title emerging in Fortune 500 companies, in governments, that we need to see more heat officers globally?
I think in a way it is, because we have to have people that can coordinate all the different sectors that need to be changing and that need to take stock of the situation and work together in order to deal with heat, because heat influences all these different sides of our existence, right? It's from health, human health, all the way to our economies. We see extraordinary impact on our productivity in different types of issues that have to do with water and other kind of resource availability, with different issues that have to do with our energy systems and how they will have to work. But most of all, and I want to stress this really intensely, is that the people that bear the brunt are the most socioeconomically vulnerable, and these people have to be protected.
Absolutely. Eleni Nidivili, thank you very much for joining us. Great to have you on the show. Well, the summer heat wave across the U.S. continues to linger from coast to coast. About 100 million people are under heat alerts. Temperatures are likely to continue to hit records in the southwest, in places like Phoenix and El Paso, and also in the southeast cities like Miami. Severe storms and flash floods are also possible in some regions of the U.S. When will this heat wave break? Joining us now, CNN meteorologist Derek Van Dam, looking into his crystal ball to give us a prediction. When is this going to? Okay, I know it's science. You're focusing on scientific evidence. Tell me.
Okay, well, we all want the good news, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. But Eleni, I love that previous interview that you did, because you rightly pointed out that this is such a global issue. So I scrambled to get this graphic up for our viewers here, because there are several concurrent heat waves happening across the planet as we speak. Not only North America, which I'll get to the details in just one moment, but look at the red shading across the Mediterranean. We've been focusing in on that, and across parts of Asia as well. It's all about these kind of amplifications in the weather pattern that bring this heat along with it. And right now we happen to be in a pattern in North America that provides a little bit of relief in the areas that have been hit hard across the nation's midsection. But like a puff of smoke in the wind, it vanishes right before our eyes, literally within the next 24 hours, and the heat begins once again. It will continue to traverse from the west to the east and build across portions that really haven't experienced the heat wave this year just yet, this summer. Let's say the Midwest of the U.S. or perhaps the northern plains. Check out these temperatures. We're talking about above average as we end off the weekend and into the first parts of the work week next week. But I do want to know, Oklahoma City and Dallas, those places that have had excessive heat lately, are actually below average. But you got to put that into context. It is the middle of July. It's still hot. Now look at this. This is called a heat dome. This is focusing in on North America, and as long as that's firmly entrenched within our weather patterns, we are going to break records. And 100 million Americans right now under some sort of heat alert. We have broken over 3,000 actual record temperature records within the past couple of months, just in the United States alone. And there's really no end in sight. I mean, check this out. Death Valley, 52 degrees on Saturday. Temperatures for the interior of California scorching, upper 40s to near 50 degrees. Places like Phoenix breaking consecutive streaks of high temperature records. They're talking about 21 consecutive days of temperatures above 43 degrees Celsius. That is incredible, and no end in sight for that over the next foreseeable future. Now, of course, a different type of heat across the Gulf Coast states. You factor in the ocean's influence here, and you get kind of a muggy feel to the air. We call it air that you can wear. In Miami, they have had 40 consecutive days where the heat index, that's comparing the humidity and the temperature, and that exceeded 38 degrees for this longest stretch ever. It's never been done. Not a lot of relief in sight. Above average temperatures building across America again, once again through next week. Eleni, there's the whole planetary perspective.
I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah,
scary stuff. Derek, great to see you. Hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Well, extreme heat and ongoing exposure to it can cause some serious health issues. Emergency room doctors say heat-related illnesses like heat exhaustion and heat stroke are among the most common issues during hot weather. In the case of heat stroke, doctors must act quickly to help patients. CNN health reporter Jacqueline Howard joins us now with more on the health risks of extreme heat. Jacqueline, great to have you with us. We know during this extreme weather, healthcare workers are seeing more patients with health illnesses. I want you to give me a sense of the types of conditions that are emerging.
Yeah, Eleni, we know that healthcare workers are seeing more patients with heat-related illness like heat stroke, as you mentioned, heat exhaustion, heat cramps. And when a patient comes in with those kinds of illnesses, doctors have to work quickly to cool down the patient's body temperature. They may use ice baths or cold IV fluids. They also may turn to IV fluids to help hydrate that patient. And some of the symptoms that we know doctors are seeing with heat stroke, for instance, a patient's body temperature may reach or exceed 103 degrees Fahrenheit. That patient may have a fast, strong pulse. They may experience headache, dizziness, or nausea. And we do know, Eleni, that heat-related illnesses can sadly turn deadly sometimes. And we have seen a rise in heat-related deaths. Between 1980 and 2016, the global number of heat-related deaths rose by 74%. So that's why what we're seeing now with these extreme temperatures globally is concerning, and something that we do know has helped some people cope with heat. Doctors say to make sure to stay hydrated. If you're outdoors and you're doing moderate activity, make sure you have 1 cup of water, or 8 ounces, every 15 to 20 minutes. That's a rule of thumb to make sure you're staying hydrated. And of course, check on older adults, young children who may be more vulnerable to high heat, and make sure that you are getting some time indoors. If possible, use air conditioning instead of a fan. But most importantly, Eleni, make sure you check in with your body during this hot heat. And if you do experience any signs of heat-related illness, try to find some medical attention if needed, of course.
Important advice, Jacqueline Howard. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, moving on now. You're watching Connect the World, and coming up this hour, the life and the legacy of Tony Bennett. Anderson Cooper gives his unique insights on the iconic singer who died today at age 96. We'll be right back.
San Francisco.
Whether you're a Barbie girl or not, you can explore this weekend. The Dollhouse. For a limited time on Channel 105 and year-round on the SXM app.
The Landstar business model gives professional drivers the freedom to decide what to haul, where to run, and when to go home. There's no forced dispatch at Landstar, so you call the shots. Plus, Landstar owner-operators get exclusive savings on fuel, tires, equipment, and more. Whether you specialize in van, flatbed, step deck, or heavy specialized, define success on your terms as an independent owner-operator leased to Landstar. Visit leasetolandstar.com to find out why owner-operators call Landstar home.
Sherry is a real Prevagen user and paid testimonialist.
Hi, my name is Sherry. I'm 76 and I live on the Oregon coast. My husband Sam, we've been married 53 years. We have a medical device company. I have 2 daughters and then 2 granddaughters. I noticed that thoughts and memories were not there like they were when I was much younger. A friend gave me a bottle of Prevagen and said it had helped her. So I thought, well, why not try it? Since taking Prevagen, my memory has gotten better, my thought processes have gotten better, and it's like the puzzle pieces have all been put together. I wish I would have known about Prevagen a few years before. It's worth a try.
Prevagen, healthier brain, better life. Prevagen is available in stores everywhere. Based on a clinical study of subgroups of individuals who were cognitively normal or mildly impaired, this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Mexican officials say they're investigating after 28 bodies were found in hidden graves in Reynosa earlier this week, and a warning. Some of what you're about to see is graphic. Reynosa sits across from McAllen, Texas, in the U.S., in an area known for organized crime. A member of a group that searches for missing people says they found the graves after an anonymous tip on social media. CNN's Rafael Romo joins us now from Atlanta. Incredible footage there. What more do we know, Rafael?
Well, Eleni, it's not only the shocking fact that it was 28 bodies altogether that were found in clandestine mass graves. What's also raising eyebrows is how the bodies were found in Tamaulipas, a Mexican state that borders with Texas. The discovery was made by a group of civilians dedicated to finding missing people in Mexico. The group called Love for the Missing in Tamaulipas Collective says they made the discovery after receiving an anonymous tip through its Facebook page. The mass graves were located on a private property in the city of Reynosa near the Texas border town of Hidalgo. The Mexican Attorney General's office announced originally that it was 27 bodies, later adding 1 more victim to the count. It has launched an investigation while forensic experts are working to identify the bodies. As horrible and gruesome as it sounds, Eleni, the Mexican state of Tamaulipas has a long history of cartel violence. As you may remember, this is the same state where 4 Americans were kidnapped at gunpoint in March, with 2 of them dying in the attack. And several mass graves have also been found in the border state over the years. In 2010, 72 migrants from Central and South America were massacred by a cartel in San Fernando, a few hours from Tamaulipas border. It's not unusual for relatives and friends of those missing to take matters into their own hands and try to find their loved ones by themselves, because many feel authorities aren't doing enough. And Eleni, according to the government figures, more than 111,000 people have gone missing in the country in the last 6 decades. Now back to you.
Incredible. Rafael Romo, thank you so much. Russia staged a 4th straight night of missile attacks on Odessa. Ukraine says the strikes hit grain facilities and destroyed large